The Iowa State Fair wrapped up this weekend. A handful of politicians getting an early start on the 2020 presidential race stopped by. Cynthia Fodor from our affiliate KCCI in Des Moines shows us who.
They are back, flipping pork burgers, signing autographs, shaking hands. Former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Julian Castro climbs up on the Des Moines Register soapbox stage.
We have to raise the minimum wage in this country. It's why we need universal health care in the United States.
A day earlier, Montana Governor Steve Bullock.
The ability to govern is fundamentally been eroded in the last 10 years.
Maryland Congressman John Delaney, the first to declare, has already hit all 99 counties.
There's no reason why the message of the Democratic Party, or at least the message we need going forward, doesn't sell in every district in this country.
California billionaire Tom Steyer pushed his purpose to impeach President Trump and possibly replace him.
The only way that this could conceivably work is if the American people decide it has to happen.
Senator Charles Grassley, munching on a pork belly, said mingling at the fair is a must.
Just being present at the state fair means that you're taking Iowa First in the Nation caucuses very seriously.
Do Iowans care at this point?
I think so. I mean, it lets all Iowans know that they matter and their vote matters.
We take in every word and stand in the heat of the sun to put the candidates in the hot seat.
What are the issues that you're most interested in?
Well, being an Iowan, obviously farming. I know they feel kind of slighted now with the tariff wars that are kind of going on.
We've been instrumental in getting a number of presidents started, so I'm glad they're here.
Well, many possible 2020 hopefuls say they'll wait until after midterms to officially declare a run. In the meantime, the Trump administration has been working to ease trade worries for farmers in the Hawkeye state. My colleague Tanya Rivero recently discussed all of this with OK Henderson, the news director for Radio Iowa. They first discussed Vice President Mike Pence's recent visit.
He spoke directly to farmers who are a little bit upset about the trade war that they see happening and on the horizon. He said the president is 100% behind farmers, and he spent a good part of a speech that was, billed as a speech to tout the tax plan that cleared Congress and the president signed in December. Instead, he spent about 5 minutes talking about the trade issue in the middle of that speech.
And would you say that that is of utmost importance right now to voters in Iowa?
For many voters, it is. Republican Congressman Steve King was at the event and spoke with reporters before it started, and he said there's going to be, real angst in farm country if there isn't some measurable deal, if you will, in terms of trade by the end of September, when farmers start getting out in the fields and harvesting their crop and thinking about how much am I going to get for these soybeans and corn that I'm putting in the bin.
Right.
So really looking at NAFTA as maybe a first step to try to get that renegotiated and to give farmers some idea that, there is a game plan here and that the Trump administration does have farmers back.
And we're in mid-August now. September is right around the corner. Are there any possible 2020 contenders who've already visited the state and any you're expecting to make an appearance before the summer wraps up?
Well, nothing compares to the Iowa State Fair is the slogan, and there have been a number of presidential candidates out there, many of them going and flipping a pork chop on the huge grill that the Iowa pork producers have, many of them eating a pork chop. I saw Andrew Yang, a businessman from New York who's been running for president for much of this year, is calling for a basic income for all Americans by assessing essentially a VAT tax on American businesses. He was out there eating a turkey leg. John Delaney, the Maryland congressman who announced he was running for president about this time last year, was out at the fairgrounds riding the big slide with one of his children. I also saw Eric Swalwell out there Steve Bullock, the governor of Montana, was out there on Wednesday night. You also have some new entrants in the sweepstakes that we hadn't heard. Michael Avenatti, who is the attorney for Stormy Daniels, spent almost a whole day just walking around the fairgrounds and not doing what many of these other folks are doing, getting up on what's called the political soapbox. It's sponsored by the Des Moines Register, and candidates have 20 minutes to give a speech to whoever assembles to hear them. And strangely, a very strange occurrence when John Delaney, the Maryland congressman, was speaking, all of a sudden another very famous John showed up in the crowd. Former House Speaker John Boehner was at the fair, and they had a little back and forth at the fair. So,
what
really
a collection of characters. I guess there is no photo op like the Iowa State Fair, as you mentioned. I want to go back to one of the people you mentioned, Congressman Eric Swalwell, because he has visited Iowa several times in the past year.
This was
it was his what visit?
This was his seventh visit since 2017.
And he is from the state. So do his frequent trips suggest anything about his future career ambitions to you?
Of course they do. Iowans know that people don't visit the state by accident when they are a politician. There is a real reason that people make a flight into the Des Moines International Airport, and it's not anything other than to sort of test the waters here, see how their message plays with Iowans. It's sort of an off-Broadway moment for some of these politicians. In fact, you have people like the mayor of Boston, who is in our state, sort of meeting with folks and maybe testing the waters for whether another big city mayor could perhaps run for president. The mayor of Los Angeles was here. We've had the governors of innumerable states who've been here. So the people keep asking me, is this really early? And actually, it just never stops.
So it seems like it's audition season, you know. I mean, Maryland Congressman John Delaney has announced his intentions to run for president in 2020 and started to run commercials in Iowa. Have you seen any other candidates who've started to run ads or rally support there in Iowa?
Well, just this past week, Tom Steyer, the California businessman who's been running ads all around the country about impeachment, was here. He has actually founded a vote sort of generation unit, if you will, that's been registering voters in Iowa since 2014. He was directly asked by someone at the fair what his intentions were regarding 2020. And I might add, this was an Iowan. It wasn't a member of the press corps. It was someone to whom he was speaking in a group. And he said, well, I will let everyone know the day after the election. Mr. Steyer said he was focused on 2018 and made an argument for why he is pushing this impeachment process.
Right. That's great. Iowans are savvy. They know the deal. They know what's up. I just want to ask you really quickly about Michael Avenatti. You mentioned that he was there as well in this cast of characters. Speaking at, I guess, a Democratic event known as the Wing Ding. What was his message to those in attendance, and how do Iowans view his possible presidential run?
Well, he was very much well received by the crowd. It was held in the historic Surf Ballroom, the place Buddy Holly played during his last concert before he died in a plane crash not far away from the Surf Ballroom. Mr. Avenatti essentially told the crowd that Democrats have made the mistake of, and I'm almost quoting now, bringing nail clippers to a knife fight. In other words, he is advocating for the idea that to beat Donald Trump in 2020, Democrats need to nominate someone who can go toe-to-toe with him rhetorically, can go toe-to-toe with him on Twitter, and when he goes low, you go low, too.
So he's got the knives. Exactly. Kay Henderson, clearly Iowa is the place to be right now. Thank you for your insight.
Exactly.